Looks like we're going inside.
Let me break you for a moment. We want to go inside the courtroom. So I thought this might have been my issue with audio, but it's not just my issue. We have plenty of problems in the field. It turns out some problems inside the courtroom as well, getting the audio feed back up. We're working to rectify that. Our feed pool is working to rectify that as well. And just as soon as we have it, we will certainly be delivering that. But there you have it, the first pictures of Jodi Arias and her defense attorney and her family members as well. In the background. The gallery is now full. It is unlikely that anybody who else has shown up is going to get a seat inside this courtroom. The judge is now on the bench, and little is happening at this point. But the logistics. There we go. We have the audio now. Let's listen.
Please be seated. The record will show the presence of the jury, the defendant, and all counsel. Ladies and gentlemen, I understand you have reached a verdict. The verdict form has been handed to the bailiff. Please come forward. The clerk will read and record the verdict.
The State of Arizona versus Jodi Arias Verdict, Count 1. We, the jury, duly impaneled and sworn, in the above entitled action, upon our oaths, do find the defendant as to Count 1, first-degree murder, guilty. 5 jurors find premeditated, 0 find felony murder, 7 find both premeditated and felony. Signed, foreperson. Is this your true verdict, so say you want it all?
Ladies and gentlemen, the clerk is now going to ask each of you a question. Please answer yes or no.
Juror number 1, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 3, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 4, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 6, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 13, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 14, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 16, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 18, is this your true verdict?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the next phase of the trial will begin tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Please be here at 12:45. Between now and then, the admonition continues to apply. Do not speak about this case. Do not view any media about this case. Are there any questions? You are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Counsel, please approach.
As Jodi Arias somewhat stoically dissolves and digests what she has just heard, her defense attorney beside her, Jennifer Wilmot, and family members hugging Family members of Travis Alexander hugging in this courtroom after the verdict. They were waiting to hear, smiling and hugging. Tears of joy for this family who have waited 4.5 years for justice in this case. Jodi Arias looks on towards the judge, deciding with her attorneys now the next step and how she will digest the next steps that she's facing. We also saw her mother, not in the picture now, but we saw her mother earlier in these pictures, not crying, but looking on very stoically. She certainly not seemed to have broken down upon hearing the news that her daughter has been convicted of first-degree murder and now will undergo a second series of deliberations and essentially trials over whether her life is worthy of being spared. I want Jeffrey Toobin to join me on this, because what we are about to hear as they reconvene for the penalty phase of this trial may be some of the most painful testimony of all.
Right. Well, it's worth just pausing to absorb the verdict for a moment. Given 27 stab wounds, given a severed throat, given a gunshot wound, I don't think it's a terribly big surprise that this verdict came in the way it did. This was a horrible crime. Jodi Arias's defense was peculiar, to say the least, full of acknowledged lies by her. And now the question becomes a very different one, though. Will the state of Arizona have a fourth woman on death row at the end of this proceeding? That's very different, and I think the odds now, I think, shift somewhat more in her favor, because it's a very different thing to find to sentence someone to die than it is to convict them.
And when you say somewhat in her favor, I'm going to challenge you on this, and you're a better lawyer, but I am not an attorney, but I will say this. You will hear, and I am assuming this, but I'm fairly confident, you will hear over and over again the testimony of how that man died and how he suffered and how cruel it was, the suffering and what they will consider almost torture, and that will be critical as aggravators against her, won't they?
It certainly will. I don't pretend to know how the jury will come out, but it is true that in recent years the death penalty is in decline in the United States. It's one of the untold stories in American law enforcement, in the American judicial system. Fewer people are being sentenced to death, fewer people are being executed in every state in the union, including Texas. And Ted Rollins, we heard him across the street.
Unbelievable.
And let's hear from Ted.
Erupting. Yes. Ted, tell us what it's like.
Well, outside here, when word came out that it was guilty in first degree, there was a huge eruption, people cheering. Kathy Brown, you're crying.
I am so thankful. I knew the Lord would do the right thing.
You are one of the people that have been here for weeks and weeks, following the case from the beginning, and obviously you're emotionally invested. You told me earlier you're not a crier.
I know. I did say that, didn't I? I guess I lied.
Why so emotional?
You know, justice was served, and that's all we needed. You know, we are so happy that this family can actually maybe find some peace soon.
Now, what about the death penalty? This jury is about to embark on a very difficult decision. Are you in favor of the death penalty for the individual, for Jodi Arias?
You know, like I talked to you before, I have a cousin on death row, and I don't believe anybody should take a life. But what she did, it was not just taking a life, it was taking several lives.
And therefore, you think she does deserve the death penalty?
I mean, what she did was horrific, and I believe she does.
You have also been in the courtroom the entire time, every day?
From the very beginning, yeah. All the days I could get in, yeah.
You live and work in Phoenix, and you come down here and spend so much time in this courtroom. Explain to people what it was specifically about this case that attracted you.
You know, I've watched every case since the O.J. trial. I'm just a case junkie, I guess, as far as watching them on TV. And when this case started airing on TV here in Phoenix, I thought, you know, I might as well go down and start watching it. And I came down here, and from that I got to know some of the friends and family members of Travis, and then it became very close to my heart and not just a court case.
One of the things about this case is the social media aspect, and I see you are on Twitter right now.
Yes.
This has really sparked interest across the country, people tweeting about it, etc. What do you say? Why is it that so many people were hooked into this and are following this?
Well, I think it's kind of, I think what started people was just kind of just sort of the horrificness of it all. I mean, it was such a violent crime, and I think obviously the geography of it, it was so close by. I mean, where Travis lived was only probably 20 minutes away from where we are now. So I think people were so drawn to it, partly in Phoenix because of how close it was, but around the world probably just because of the sort of graphic nature of the crime. And I think Jodi herself became sort of a household name just because of how much of a liar she really was. I mean, it was something new all the time. And then when she took the stand, and we were in there for the first couple days of her cross, and the first couple days of her cross, she was just nasty, she was obnoxious with the prosecutor and really standoffish and incredibly sarcastic, and I think that people were just kind of hooked on hating her a lot of the time. So
I think it's safe to say that a lot of people ended up hating this person. Is it a bit barbaric, though, for hundreds of people outside a courthouse to be cheering another person's demise?
Well, I guess it sort of depends on your view on her. I think for most people would probably cheer right along. But I mean, I have seen, especially through social media, like she has a Twitter page that her friend runs for her, and there's a lot of supporters on there for her. And I'm sure they would be horrified by what they see out here. But for people who really know what I consider to be the truth, I think that it's more of a celebratory kind of day than it is anything else. So.
And it is not over, obviously, Ashley, here's Casey Wine, correspondent CNN, who was in the courtroom when this verdict was read. First off, reactions.
It was really tense right before the verdict was read. There was not a sound in the courtroom. I was sitting directly behind the supporters of Travis Alexander and his family. When that verdict was read, there was loud sighs, gasps. Many members of his family, including his sister, his friends, began sobbing. Some of them, I could hear them saying, "I'm so happy, thank God." I saw one friend of his praying before the verdict was actually read, when the jury actually handed the bailiff the verdict form. It was one of his friends, hands clasped, head down, clearly praying. Obviously, the Travis Alexander family and friends very happy with the outcome of this case. On the other side, I could see Jodi Arias' reaction. Almost no reaction from where I was sitting. Not much reaction from her family that I could see, but on Travis Alexander's side, understandably, a lot of emotion, a lot of relief.
What about jurors? Any emotion there?
They were stone-faced. They were stoic, had no reaction at all. They still have a lot of work to do, as you're well aware. They still have to decide on aggravating factors in this case. That's going to begin tomorrow at 1 o'clock local time. They still have to decide eventually on whether she is going to die or serve the rest of her life in prison.
And what about outbursts? Any outbursts? You say you heard reaction, but was it an outburst, or was it?
Well, nothing more than a natural reaction that you might expect from someone who was really emotional. I can imagine that the judge before this, the family members were brought in, the supporters were brought in before the media was, before spectators were brought in. I imagine that they were given some sort of an admonition. We didn't hear it, but it's common in these cases to get some sort of an admonition about outbursts. There weren't any that were outrageous or anything that would upset any judge, I can imagine.
Did the judge warn the courtroom not to control themselves?
No warning at all. There was a big delay. It was supposed to start at 1:30 local time. We didn't actually get in the courtroom until about 1:38, 1:40, sometimes around that. Then when the verdict was read, it all happened very, very quickly. The prosecutor, Juan Martinez, came in. The defense attorney, Kirk Nurmi, came in. Then they brought in Jodi Arias. The jury came in, and then right away they handed that verdict to the clerk, and it was read.
Any reaction from Juan Martinez? Did he make eye contact with the family? Anything that you noticed?
Honestly, I could not see him from where I was standing, Ted. but clearly he is someone that supporters of the prosecution have been very happy with his performance. He's been one of the stars of this trial, if you will.
We just saw one of Travis Alexander's friends leave the courtroom here, or courthouse, and that's why you heard Ashley the applause there. Ashley?
Ted, we are over a block away from you. We can hear the eruptions of emotion, the screams. Jeffrey Toobin and I getting breaking news on our Blackberries about some of the breakdowns of the jury vote. If you're just joining us, I want to reset for you what we're covering here in Phoenix, Arizona, outside of the Maricopa County Superior Courthouse. A jury of 8 men and 4 women has just reached its verdict and delivered that verdict in the courtroom. Guilty. Jodi Arias is guilty of first-degree murder in the killing of Travis Alexander. A brutal, to be sure, a brutal and painful death that man suffered over 4 years ago. Jodi Arias could have been found not guilty. She also could have been found guilty of lesser included. That did not happen. And now this story will move to another phase.